interview from GamesRadar.com from Zack Snyder about Batman v Superman. Okay, this was written by Brian Calms and Jack Shepard. It was first published 6 hours ago. So Zack Snyder, this is his quote: "The studio had this hatred for Batman v Superman." An exclusive interview. Zack Snyder talks Justice League and how the rough version was almost released. Zack Snyder's Justice League has been released, and the director's fans' thirst for more superhero shenanigans from the filmmaker has been quenched, for now at least. But the so-called Snyder Cut nearly never arrived in a very different form. When Warner Bros. First called, there was this idea that they would just release the rough cut of the movie, exactly as I had it on my computer, with no visual effects or anything. Snyder tells SFX in the latest issue of the magazine, they asked would I be interested in that, and I was like, no, not interested in that. I felt that it was too much of a gift for the haters. But after a while, and after I thought about it, I pitched Warner Brothers what I thought would be a cool way to finish it. If they did have interest in it, this would be a way to do it. After I finished telling them the story, they watched the movie and they were like, oh wow, there's even more than we thought. Then HBO Max said yes. Snyder's original vision for Justice League was not released the first time around, as the director departed the project, Joss Whedon stepping in for reshoots. The initial shoot, though, was not clean sailing for Snyder. This is Snyder, what he had to say. "I feel like the studio had this hatred for Batman v Superman," he says, referring to his previous DC movie. "There was this pressure on me to divorce the movie from Batman v Superman, which I didn't want to do. Which I didn't do. Frankly, it's a trilogy of movies, so it continues the story. The narrative is affected by things that have gone on before, and that way it's able to realize this world that sets up the Darkseid invasion for what was planned to be a 5-movie arc. It definitely finishes with this version of the film, with our heroes having mended their personal wounds and joined together as a family. With the studio less than impressed with the general reception to Batman v Superman, they forced some changes onto Justice League." This is what Zack said. "The black suit version was something that the studio didn't want to do," Snyder explains. "So I shot the color version, but visual effects supervisor John DJ and I did a bunch of tests where we knew how to turn the color suit black. Then we had a formula, because I thought we could convince them to do it. It took a little longer than I imagined, but here we are." Now though, Snyder's original vision has been released, and some fans are already calling on Warner Bros. To move forward with the Snyderverse and Justice League 2. So that's interesting. You know, even Zack, when he was making Justice League, he had a pretty tough time. He could feel that Warner Brothers didn't like Batman v Superman, and we all kind of knew that as well, because if Batman v Superman made $1 billion and if the reception was a little bit better, I'm sure Warner Brothers would have been behind the movie 100%. There would have been no questions asked. But they didn't want him to do Justice League, but Justice League was going into production 3 weeks after Batman v Superman came out, so it would have cost them a lot of money to ditch Snyder and to delay the movie that was supposed to come out, November 17, 2017. So, yeah, Zack could feel that big time. But even Zack knew himself. He was like they were trying to push things onto me. But it's not like Justice League is a complete U-turn from Batman v Superman. It is in some aspects, but Zack didn't do that because the studio said, make it lighter. He did it because it was a progression of the story. As he said, it's a 5-story arc. It's a trilogy of movies. What happens in one story leads into the next, and it has an effect on each character. Look at Batman. His role, his character is completely different in Zack Snyder's Justice League than it was from Batman v Superman, because he was a madman. He was driven to the edge over what has gone on in his life, but he's able to come back because Superman showed him hope. And we see this journey with Flash, with Cyborg and Aquaman as well. Wonder Woman has a longer story, her origin film that came out in 2017, leading into Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got to see her in Batman v Superman. So it's interesting, it really, really is. But for Zack to be making Justice League and to know that the studio hated his previous version of Batman v Superman, didn't want him to do a version like that, must have been tough on him and a lot of pressure on him. I think in a different interview, someone asked Zack, why did you wear so much suits and fancy clothes on the set of Justice League in London? And he said because there was executives there in suits and he didn't want them to upshow him or anything like that. So, he was under a lot of pressure, and for him to make a really great film in Zack Snyder's Justice League that came out in HBO Max recently and around the world, is a credit to him, because there was so much pressure on him, but he still wouldn't give in. he wanted a black Superman suit because in the comics, black Superman suit. And the reason Superman has a cape is because of that. He shot all of Henry Cavill's stuff in the blue traditional suit. But he thought in post he could convince Warner Brothers to let me turn to black. So that's why it was in a cape. If Zack had got what he wanted from the start, Superman would have never came back in a cape. It would have been just a black suit, maybe a mullet, long hair, all stuff like that. Would have been kind of cool to see Henry Cavill like that, like this. But yeah, it just shows you big time. But as this article said, many people want him to restore the Snyderverse. HBO Max to restore the Snyderverse, Warner Brothers, but that might seem unlikely. But guys, what was your thoughts on this little piece from Zack Snyder where he could feel the pressure from Warner Brothers that they hated Batman v Superman? They weren't 100% behind his vision. We already kind of knew this because they got rid of him. Well, he stepped away because they were throwing so much shit at him. Brought in Josh Whedon, and we all know how that went. But guys, let me know your thoughts on that. Give a like, comment, subscribe. Come follow me on all the social medias. That stuff is in the end credits. And